Why do some people get well when others stay stuck? Often it is not the treatment, it is the attitude, it's the mental state. Believing there is a solution, staying open, and pushing for answers can be the difference between living with limits and thriving with health. Today, we will explore the 4 mental shifts that unlock wellness and how you can train your mind to work for your health, not against it. So welcome to WellWaveNOW, your portal for actionable wellness insights. We, Breck Rice, our PhD, Dr. Bob Levine, and I, Tim Daniels, are your wellness catalysts. We're totally committed to elevating your health, enhancing your functionality, and to optimizing your performance at every life stage. This is WellWaveNOW, where timeless wisdom lights your wellness path.
So I've got a question for our panel here today. Growing up, did your mom or dad ever tell you, oh, it's just in your head?
Yeah, that and a bunch of other things too.
Exactly. Well, let's start with the first mental shift, and that's belief. Now, belief is more than just a hope, right? It is a conviction that there is a solution that exists out there for you, even when it's not obvious or immediate. And applying that to health, we know all the benefits. There's actually been study after study on visualizing, putting participants in one room and just having them do free throw shots, for instance, and then putting participants in another room and having them visualize making the shots and then who actually produced better. So there's tons and tons of studies that show how that, belief that you can do something or that there's a solution out there exists. Let's apply that now to health and wellness. How does that mindset or that shift of belief help those that are struggling with with a situation that is affecting their health today?
Is it okay if I just clarify what you said about the free throws, the basketball free throws?
Sure.
Because I remember that was a really fascinating study where one group shot free throws, and then the other group didn't practice it physically. They just thought it. They were visualizing it, anticipating it, and then when they tested both groups, they were equal.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, along that visualization, I know just part of the things you do, Bob, with your future visioning part as well, I'm sure we'll get into today. But as I look at it, all of us have probably interacted with people and worked with people and on their various challenges in various ways. For a while, I was as a weight loss coach for a while, helped people with sort of pain through PEMF. But if they weren't open to even believing there is a solution out there, they wouldn't even try. And so to me, that's what that belief is there. That belief is that determination. It sets the foundation for trying, and also that belief that something exists out there is what keeps you going and keeps you searching for that. So that's why that is why, to me, it is a key mental shift that someone has to have if they're going to. Otherwise, they'll get lucky if they find their solution, if they don't have belief that there is something out there to light a fire under them.
Yeah, and also our audience should know that placebo is belief. Placebo works because of belief. If somebody doesn't believe in something, it's unlikely that there'll be a placebo effect. So that's why belief is so important, because belief is what has people getting better from taking a pill that has no biological activity, and they get better because of the placebo effect. That's belief.
Yeah, and in fear of going down that rabbit hole with you, Dr. Bob, I'll bring that up, that's why they do those studies, right? And they put patients on a sugar pill or something that doesn't even have the biological benefits in there that they're supposed to be getting, but purely out of the belief, they still have effect positively. There's some danger to the opposite of that, right? Where somebody has the mindset that, that won't work for me. Nothing ever works for me. I always, whenever I heard one of my kids being negative, I would say, yeah, that's exactly right. That's going to happen if that's your mindset. Yeah. Of course, that's going to happen. If you say, I'll never get that position. I will never make that team. Yep, with that attitude, you're absolutely correct. You won't make the team.
Yeah, whatever somebody's thinking and saying is likely to happen. So if people just remember that, they can actually shift their thoughts if they know how to do that, and it can be done. And also, that's the nocebo effect, where it's like you think it can happen, it won't happen. So there's placebo and nocebo.
Yeah, you both know sometimes I get kind of biblical on you, and so I've got to get biblical on you here.
Here we go. I'm going to strap in. I'm putting my seatbelt on. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Because it just popped into my spirit there. There are two things it will talk about. One, it will say you will have whatever you say, and if you believe it, just to your point, if you state it and you believe it and you have it, boom, it's there. And it also says the power of life and death is in the tongue. And that's a little different, but it's also telling you that also plays into this little the self-talk, because how can you build that belief a little bit is through the self-talk, and you can say out loud that you've got that power within you to speak life or to speak death to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, very true. I like it when you bring in those biblical connections, really, because it's interesting how these concepts were formed, so many hundreds of years ago.
Oh yeah, 2,000 years ago, and they hold true today, right? And it's like the answer is out there if someone is willing to go seek it, right? And the answer may not be the outcome that you want, but it is whatever the right outcome is supposed to be.
Yeah, so I look at prayer. Prayer is belief, and belief is placebo. So prayer can help heal for sure. Now we know it's not 100% effective, yet it's really valuable for people who people engage in prayer, and for some people it's really beneficial. It can do the job. But I personally wouldn't rely 100% on prayer. I just think prayer is important to put with other things that are available to help people get healthy and move beyond whatever ill health condition they have.
Yeah, it can't hurt, right? We've talked to many of our wellness heroes where they hit a dead end, right? Where just about every, traditional medical procedure was either tried or they were told they would be on a lifetime of medication, and they just refused to accept that there wasn't a better situation. My friend Susie Simonson comes to mind. She had some issues early on. She was very young when she went through a traumatic experience where she had a stroke and literally had to learn to walk and talk and everything again. And she just said, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm put her mind to it. And she now, lives a fully functional life today. Where others like, Divya Dawson, what was she had? Is it Sjogren's,
yeah,
Tim? Tell us more about that, or Dr. Bob, tell our audience more about that condition.
Go ahead, Tim. Let it rip.
Well, the Sjogren's is it used to be called Sjogren's syndrome, but now they've moved it up to the recognition of what it causes and how challenging it can be to actually make it a disease versus a syndrome. And it often affects women more than others, but it could be dryness of eyes, dryness of the mouth, can affect the digestion, and so it can be quite serious on that. And they wanted to put her on medication. And I don't even know if she was responding to the medication, but she said, "Look, I believe there's a way out there. I believe there is something that I can address this." And in her in her background, it was she was of Indian from the subcontinent descent, and she looked more down the Ayurveda path to look at what am I eating, what am I experiencing here, and really work through that to bring herself into full remission. She would say a cure of it, where the doctor she was worked with can't spot it anymore. So absolutely, and that brings me to Dr. Bob's point. Relying on the prayer portion. To me, I am a complete believer. Prayer has brought people back from the dead. People have gotten cured from cancer and many other things through it, but it does require belief. So if you don't believe enough in it and believe in Christ enough, it's not going to work for you. So, but now that said, to Bob's point, and where I brought it in when we talk about Divya, Divya believed more in that there was an answer in Ayurveda medicine for her. You can have
Yeah.
belief in it. We have belief in it, and I know Bob's anxious here. I'm gonna let you in a second, Bob. Belief can even be you can have belief in a chair. We all have. If you didn't believe that chair could support you, you wouldn't be sitting down in it. So belief in science, belief in other things that are real, in addition to a belief in prayer, certainly that's the foundation. Belief of some type is there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree. Can you believe that, Tim? I 100% agree with you. Now I want to put something that I think is really important. It's just occurring to me now. And that is that we know that prayer alone is not 100% effective. We know that from clinical trials. So I don't want to burst your bubble, Tim, but the data shows
you
that.
can't burst my bubble on that because on that. But go ahead. I won't interrupt you.
Yet it's also been shown that prayer is effective to a certain extent, which is really cool. So why is it that some people who pray can get better and other people who pray for the same conditions, same circumstances, would be the same clinical study, don't? And it's occurring to me that if the person has a subconscious mind belief that aligns with their conscious belief that they can get better, then they have a really high chance of getting better. If they have a subconscious mind belief that they can't, which the conscious mind can't recognize, there's a disconnect there. So consciously they're saying, I believe, and subconsciously it's like, this isn't going to work, then it's not going to work. And it's almost like having an internal hidden fear, but having a good looking face on top of it, the face of confidence, like, yeah, I'm going to beat this, or I can beat this, or I'm going to win. But yet deep down, it's like, it's not going to happen. So that's kind of, and I could actually test that in a clinical study. So whenever I raise, I need about probably about $300,000. So when I get that, I can run a clinical study to absolutely prove that that's the case. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm being Dr. Bob. I'm putting my hand up here for you. I don't want to interrupt you. The way you stated that, Bob, is I'm in agreement with, which is
really?
You say.
I'm so glad we're recording this. You guys are agreeing with each other.
I gotta play this back when I'm going to sleep. It's just gonna be so consoling and comforting. Go ahead, Tim.
It was the other part where say, prayer. When you say prayer itself is not 100% effective, that's where we kind of are separating a little bit. But the way you stated it, how you explained it, where you said, look, if you pray but you don't really believe, it's not going to happen for you, so it's not effective. Then that I completely agree with. If I said it's just not going to happen.
There's a difference between consciously believing and subconsciously sabotaging that belief. So I believe that everybody who prays, I believe that they believe consciously.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Breck.
I was going to say, so the person, it's not a lack of faith, because somebody could say, okay, well, somebody has more faith than the other,
right.
To cover both sides of that. Those with faith would just then, put it in God's hands, right? And whatever God says the outcome should be the outcome, right? That way you're covering both bases, faith, but also putting it in deity's hands.
Yeah, we're going to get into. We're about ready to make this a whole religious study.
We're getting into.
We got a whole show going here on this. But I just want to say one more thing, Breck.
I'm not Bob.
Okay.
We're going to end up talking over each other again, and I started this one, so you can come in after I finish this part.
Okay.
Respond to Breck. There's two parts of that. One, when biblically you say you have to know God's will, whatever God's want, decide. God's will is mapped out, so one should know that will to be healthy. So this part where it says, I believe that you all will be healthy and thrive, even as your soul thrives. So that's one part of it. Second part, to your point, Bob, the biblical part of that is there's a part where one guy says where they couldn't, said Christ asked him, "Do you believe?" He said, "I believe. Help me my unbelief." So it's like two things pulling at you at the same time. You've got this level of belief, you've got this unbelief that tugs you. You've got to, sometimes it's the amount of unbelief you've got at that subconscious level that is stopping things from coming through. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. That is really fantastic. You said that because you're explaining in biblical terms the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. The unbelief is the subconscious mind pulling somebody away. The only difference that I see is that, when we know our conscious mind, we know what's in our conscious mind. We don't really know what's in our conscious mind. We don't even know that there's unbelief there unless we understand that there is this area of our internal, whatever it is, being, thinking, where there's unbelief. So because most people don't have a clue about that. If you said, do you know you have an area in your mind where you don't believe? And they go, that's not true. I believe 100%. However, they don't know what's in their subconscious mind. Cool conversation, you guys. I really like this. I had no idea we were going to go here.
Well, we did. So now that we've gone there, and we said that belief is the foundation, but also, and I was wrestling with how this could be true. This also could be true at the same time. Sometimes people have belief, but they're not open to open to options. So without that openness to options, that belief can shrink into stubbornness. So let's talk about how staying open makes that difference, in finding the right solutions for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, being willing to explore, right? And try an integrative approach rather than just staying on the conventional path. And it's not taking anything away from the conventional path, right? It's an addition to, it's additional support. It's like getting a second, a third, a fourth opinion by taking more of a holistic or integrative approach, in my opinion. What are your thoughts, Dr. Bob?
Yeah, and I look at my own life. I got a great experience of that, where years ago I had developed a really bad back and hip pain, and I tried just about everything I could in conventional medicine, and nothing helped me at all. And it was just a terrible experience being in that kind of chronic pain. So I tried alternative therapies, which at that point in my career, I was barely open, but I was open. I wanted to get better, and I knew that the last thing I wanted to do was suffer in the chronic pain for 30 years, like my MD buddies were saying, and then get hip replacements or whatever I needed. So I said, okay, I'm going to go out and explore this voodoo stuff, right? And that's really what I said at the time. I'm just going to do it. I don't care what I have to do. I'm finding an answer. And so I went all over. That's when I was in Detroit at Henry Ford Health System. I was directing the Center for Integrative Wellness, and so I was going out to all these alternative practitioners, some of which were a little bit strange, but you know what? I just said, hey, look, just do, this is what I've got going on. Can you help me? And they all said, yeah, we can help you. Everybody said they could help me. And I said, okay. And so I did about, maybe 12 different modalities of all types, and each one, none of those initial ones did anything. I was open, though. I had to find the answer. So staying open and trying things is really important. And as a practitioner with clients, I see that a lot, where they're open to certain things, but not other things that I even do. So it's really a problem when you need a multimodal approach. You need to combine 7 different modalities in the same treatment strategy. And the person says, well, I don't like that strategy. I don't like that one. I don't want to do that one. It's like, well, okay, if you're not going to do that, how are we going to get the job done? And sometimes it works without the extra modalities that they don't like. Other times it doesn't.
Yeah, I've given this example before, and so I'd encourage all of our listeners to go back and listen to some of the previous episodes. And in fact, if you could find the episode where I stated this example before, Bob will do a free consult for you and let us know which episode that was in. But I had the opportunity to go visit a neurosurgeon down in Texas, and he had this really big, successful practice. He had developed his own, I think it was like discs for replacing, bad discs in the back, and really successful surgeon. And he had a wellness office right there within his clinic, and he had a wellness provider in there. And I asked about that. I was like, okay, you're a pure science guy, but you've got this holistic healer. I guess it was a healer was on the door. And so he explained, he's like, I can't explain it. But if she tells you to paint blue paint on your bottom of your feet and walk around in circles, you just do it because it works. And he had that healer in his office more for his own employees and his own staff than walk-in patients.
Yeah, it's really So being open, Tim, is just vital. Just staying open. And that's what I think for our listeners. That's what you want to know. It's like whatever skepticism. I was skeptical of everything. I walked into everything skeptical, but I also walked in there open to this could work, and I'm going to try it, and I'm going to see if I can make it happen. So in my case, there was no opportunity for placebo to work because I tried number 1, tried number 2, tried number 3, tried number 4. I had the intention that they would all work, and it didn't until I got number 12 or something did it really unlock the issue that I had with my chronic back and hip pain. And in literally one session with the right practitioner, I was out of pain, and it was crazy. My postural alignment was corrected, and it was nuts. I mean, that's what got me into this thing in the first place, this whole business of integrative health in the first place.
Tim, how many people have you worked with that were kind of hitting a dead end, and you introduced them to PEMF and were able to break through those blockades?
Oh, tons of them. As long as they were open, like Bob was, open to at least trying. And so as people had anywhere from bone fractures that weren't healing and were about ready to get surgery, to people with neuropathy, to people with fatigue, to people with anxiety and depression. And so all of those things have been impacted positively. People with lupus and not getting relief. People with Hashimoto's disease and Graves' disease, tons of them all through PEMF. Over and over again, is the ones that were open. And so many times I've had people from the flip side say, "Oh, that won't work for me. That's not possible. How could this stuff impact structural damage?" And they won't try it, and they're left in that. And the thing they get into is, and you both kind of touched on a little bit, is the problem that we have a lot of in American society. And even my high school wrestling coach had this when he was going through the challenge. He said, "Oh, it was just easy. I just listened to what my doctor said and I just did it." And he was talking about an MD. We're raised and trained early on to believe that our MDs know everything about healing that needs to be known. And if they don't think anything can be done, then probably nothing can be done. And I will say over time was, this show is really, in talking to our wellness heroes and other things, has really helped me gel something in my mind, even talking to some of the MDs that we have on who acknowledge it. They are great. They are wonderful. They have studied. They have a depth of knowledge, but their knowledge deals with what can medication do. Mm-hmm. If you ask, I'm now relocated. Breck let me move near him, so I've got to find another primary care. But I had a wonderful primary care doctor. But she never talked to me about what supplementation aside from a vitamin D or vitamin B could do. Not what a supplement could do for my knee. Not what eating strawberry leaves could do for my stomach. They just don't have that knowledge. So therefore, you got to be that understanding, that awakening. Then what has led me to say, well, Ayurveda does some things that outside of that. Food is medicine does some things. Supplementation does some things. So it's that really curiosity, as Bob talked about, that drive to find something that people have got to be open to and have with that. So we go ahead, Bob.
Well, I just want to say, I think one of the most important messages for our audience is that it's really important. I think being skeptical is great. Go to see all your practitioners and be skeptical. However, don't let that drive all of your thinking, because being skeptical for me has always been about gathering information, like getting all the information and then making some kind of conclusion from that information. while you just remember, you can be skeptical and be open at the same time and have what I call the true future vision of this shall work. There's zero question. I want it, I believe it, and I know it. This shall work. Right. And so even while I'm being skeptical, I was skeptical of every practitioner I went to, except I wanted it and I believed that it could work, and I actually knew it could work until such time as it didn't work,
So what I hear you both saying is avoid the rigid thinking, right? Oh, my doctor knows everything, and so I'm just going to do what they say to do. But, still question, be skeptical, question, but have that mindset that there is a future vision of a better outcome, so that you can realize that, and then really believe that it will happen for you.
Well said, Breck.
Absolutely. What I would just compliment to that is, back on Bob things, I believe someone should be skeptical. There's a difference between being, as just to rephrase how Bob put it, difference between being skeptical and being a cynic. A cynic says, this is impossible, this is not going to work. A skeptic says, let me investigate this and understand this. And I think people should investigate and understand it. This has some foundation in reality. To your person, if they had told to the person you went to, Breck, if she said, that person said, hey, if she tells you to paint your feet blue, I'd say, why? You show me what you got to talk a little bit why painting blue does something, and what's your foundation for that?
Well, I mean, I'm going to jump in real quick and say, I didn't know how most of the therapies that I was trying with all these alternative practitioners worked. They couldn't really explain it to me either. So that's why I like to look at data. It's like, I don't have to know how something works. It's like, okay, you've seen 100 people and you've had them all paint their feet blue, and 65 of them were 100% better, and 25 of them were significantly improved, and the other few it didn't work for. I mean, I'm on board. Right. That's all I need to hear.
Just to clarify for those who just joined this episode, that was an exaggeration of an example. I don't think she really does have anyone pay their feet, but blue. But for a more...
You didn't name any names, though, Breck.
Yeah, but for a more practical use of that example would be Christina, who we had on. She was in law school, had bronchitis, chronic, couldn't get over it. She was in a moist environment up in the Bay Area, and someone finally introduced her to, Chinese medicine, and she literally was sent home sticks and twigs and weird-looking things that she had to boil up in hot water and drink, and she said it was nasty tasting. So that did take some faith that, hey, whatever is in these sticks and twigs, is really going to help me, and it did. And it did. It cleared up her bronchitis.
Wasn't feeding their poison either. Because I was just going to use an example. If somebody went to some alternative practitioner and they said, take this cyanide, and I'd want to ask Bob's question, well, how many people have you given this to, and how many of them lived? I'm not just going to say, give me the cyanide.
That would take care of all your problems, though. No more problems.
That's right. No more problems.
No. But hey, let's take a quick break here to talk about a natural way to drop some pounds. And I'm excited to hear the results that people are having with this. And there's so many people that are interested in the GLP-1s and the benefits that you get from weight loss, but they're painful injections and they're very expensive prescriptions. So why not lose weight naturally without the hassle? Introducing Brain IQ Fast Melts, the revolutionary way to shed pounds effortlessly. Less than 1/4 of the cost of traditional GLP-1 prescriptions. Lose 28.1 pounds on average in 10 weeks with no side effects. The leading prescriptions take 40 weeks to get similar results, but of course they do have some side effects you need to be aware of. Outperform the leading GLP prescriptions, lose weight, more weight in less time, say goodbye to long wait times, and hello to faster, safer, smarter way to reach your goals. Don't wait. Choose Brain IQ Fast Melts and start transforming your body today. We will make a link available in the show notes for you to check that new product out. Again, all natural. I'm excited to hear the results from even some of our own close listeners to the program here that are getting that brain IQ fast melts. So let's go on to the next. We talked about mindset being one of the ways. What about resilience and I guess having the ability to endure a little longer until you get to the result that you're looking for. So once you believe that you can, and stay open to another mind shift and make some make some changes, there's that persistence, right? You have to keep with it. You can't just give up because the first thing didn't work for you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean,
so we've got your, like you mentioned, start out with first you got to have some belief, then you got to be open, so it's just not one path, and that persistence, just like Bob talked about, where he sought out a number of different protocols, if you will, or modes of treatment is there. But also as part of that persistence is sometimes, as we learned, I think even Carrie Mencarini, who runs an IV therapy shop in Northern California and had Lyme's and some other things that she pointed out. So she eventually got some help even in the practical realm in addition to the IV therapy she took. But she did that by being persistent with her healthcare providers, because I remember and then that's been a common theme, and I hear it even more from women than from men, is that a lot of times they get dismissed as this is phantom stuff. It is all in your head. This is not real. So that persistence has to be, and sometimes an advocacy for yourself, because sometimes the conventional American medicine will have the answer, but somebody's got to listen to you and believe that it's there and that you're experiencing it. So that ability to advocate for yourself and ask the questions of your provider, and the tenacity and the fortitude to do that has got to be present too.
Yeah, I'm glad that you covered that, because it isn't just a persistence in searching for a solution that works for you. And everyone's DNA is a little different. Everyone's mindset is a little different. So one thing that worked, beautifully for one patient may not work for you. And so you've got to have that persistency to continue searching for what is going to work for you. But it's working with your providers, being persistent in just exactly what Tim, explained here, to be the advocate for yourself. It is your life. It's your wellness. And so you've got to be your own advocate. And if you can't be an advocate, find somebody that will be for you and bring them to the appointment. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, everything that the provider is telling you. Bring someone with you and compare notes after the your time with the provider.
Even during the go right into the appointment, because two heads are better than one, let's say, and people hear things differently. So the person who's an advocate or a helper, or whatever you want to call them, can ask questions and that you might not be thinking of. So it's from experience, having an advocate being an advocate is really important.
Yep. Yeah, that third party perspective is really key, right? Because they can be a little more firm with the provider and say, well, hey, you need to explain this better, or we need to look further than this. They can be a little more firm, I think, than the patient themselves, who is just wanting answers.
True. I something's coming to my mind now, because a lot of people complain about conventional care and the pharmaceuticals and the that there's side effects, and we all believe that. But what I want to bring up is that I think because there's so much talk about some of the problems with some of the pharmaceuticals, that it's harder for people to go into conventional care with belief and with commitment and with with persistence to make that pharmaceutical work for them. They might be tainted by the conversations out there that, wow, this percentage of people are getting this side effect and that side effect. And it's really important to when you're taking a pharmaceutical, to believe that it's going to work until you have tried it long enough to know if it's working or not working. You got to believe in it, and it's really important. So, and you can try going on a drug holiday after it works for you and you've made some changes in your life, then you can go off the drug. The drug holiday is when you take a break from it, you wean yourself off. So I just wanted to say that for people who are listening to us, we do a lot with wellness and we talk about drug side effects, yet it's really important to apply all these principles to any kind of care, conventional care, alternative care that's not covered by insurance or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and how do people overcome that dismissal that it's all in your head? You gave the example earlier, Tim, of one of our wellness heroes that was on, and for years she was basically labeled a crazy lady, right? Yeah. So how do you overcome those dismissals or this setbacks? You're not getting immediate results.
Well, Bob, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I was just having a thought while Breck was talking. To me, when somebody says it's all in your head, that means they don't have a clue what's going on. That's what that means to me. Oh, it's all in your head. Well, first of all, everything is all in our head. So, the pain is in our head, sleep disturbances in our head, anxiety is in our head. I don't give, a dysfunctional relationship and communication, it's in our head. So when somebody says it's all in, a practitioner, an expert says it's all in your head, guess what? They don't know what to tell you other than that. They don't have an answer. So if I hear it's all in your head, I go, thank you very much. Yeah, I agree. It's all in my head. I'll go figure it out with somebody else. Yeah. So that's it. It's not personal to you. People take that stuff personally, but it just means that the person doesn't have a clue. Like, I have never had to say it's all in. Well, I would say, yeah, it's in. If somebody asked me what's causing this, I would say it's in your head and it's easy to resolve, right? Because everything's in the head. Well, if you cut the spinal column, then it's not in the head anymore. So anyway, that's my take on it.
And even if it is sort of what's the right term, psychosomatic, you're still experiencing it. So it's how do you resolve that?
Yeah,
it's real.
And so to me, there's still some answer to be sought, and some answer to be found, and you have to keep after it and get to advisors. You say that understand that and are willing to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, everything in my world, everything is psychosomatic. That's the mind, brain, body connection. It has to be psychosomatic. But people who don't have an answer for you use the terms like it's all in your head or that's psychosomatic to basically give themselves a back door, a way to explain because they don't know the answer. And so if we take that personally, oh, there's something wrong with me, it's psychosomatic, oh, it's all in my head, that I would just ignore that. Let that float right on by. Somebody says that to you, let it float on by and say, thank you very much. I'm going to go out there and continue to explore and then go do that.
Right. So what you're saying is, to some extent, is don't devalue yourself. Don't let it be a personal response to it. It's go ahead and understand you still have answers to find, and you got to find the right person to kind of walk that path with you from a provider standpoint.
Yeah, and when a practitioner says it's all in your head or that's psychosomatic, I mean, and that tells me, and it should tell everybody out there, they don't have an answer for you. They don't know what's going on. But what is real is how you feel. Mm-hmm. And so when somebody says it's all in your head or it's psychosomatic, that should not have somebody should be free to experience their experience. Like, hey, listen, that's not going to negate the fact that I have pain or I feel anxious or my relationship is broken down or whatever it happens to be. I don't sleep well. People have to understand and be okay with and acknowledge and embrace the fact that they are having that experience and it's real. Right. That's key.
Great. So we've gone through, you got to have belief, you got to be open to solutions, not that it's just only one path where there is resolved. And along with that, the persistence in terms of advocacy, being an advocate for yourself, and just pursuing it and staying with it until you find something. Now, but the last part I would say of these 4 mental shifts is that persistence without direction can really be exhausting. And so the right knowledge to help you establish your direction is where you can get that persistence to actually pay off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think about with the access to social media, right? Everyone has something that they're, talking about, and here on TikTok, you can find 1,000 different wellness ideas, and they may be great ideas, but, the right knowledge, and just, you got to research that. It may be right for one person or the person who's experienced it that's talking about it on TikTok or social media, but you need to do your research on this, because getting a lot of information can be information overload. It may not be the right information, and so the right knowledge does really matter. And instead of just collecting a bunch of random information. So how do we sift through that?
Wow, that's a tough question. So first of all, I just want to say that, when I was a toddler about 30 years ago, we didn't have the ability for social media to gather all this information.
We promised we weren't going to talk over each other anymore, but I can't let that one go. That's about 30 times 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are toddlers really 25 years old? I don't think so. But so 30 years ago, there was not social media, and there was no way to gather a lot of information. The only way you could get it really was talking to people, and there's a limited number of people in your circle that you could actually talk to. Now you can get information overload. You can get all kinds of information that's valuable, and you get all kinds of information that doesn't do any good. It could be totally false, could be a fake narrative, and who knows, So that's why, but it's worthwhile gathering it all up. And then you can talk to people, and you can go on forums, and you can say, hey, anybody know anything about this? Anything to know about that? You could do a consult with somebody like me or somebody else that would give you a free consult to give you some ideas about what you're looking for. And that's really a great way to go. So I would say today, if you do gather the information, number one, do the research, number two, get some advice from other people, hopefully professionals who are practitioners who would know something, and then you have to make the decision, take responsibility for whatever decision you make. So that can be done today. I think a lot of people don't understand that that after they gather the information, they can actually evaluate that with people who know how to evaluate that information.
Yeah, you mentioned, forums. I'll mention a good group that everybody could join. If you go over to the Facebook group and the WellWaveNOW group over there, there's some great resources for you, and some great providers that are in there that you could bounce some of this information that you're gathering off of and say, hey, is there any clinical evidence to, the use of this particular nutrient or whatever that everybody's talking about on social media?
Perfect thing, Breck. I mean, that group, there's like 4,000 plus people in there. It's amazing. So if you want to get some people, and those are all people that have some kind of interest in health, whether it's an ill health condition they have, or they have a loved one who's got an ill health condition, or they're a practitioner like me and some others that are in there. And, we comment when we see something that's really relevant that we can help with. So that's a great resource. And if you go over there, anybody who's listening, you go over there and join the group, you can then post a comment. Say, hey, here I am, and I have this or I have that, or I would like information on this or that, or I can help. If you're a practitioner, I can help with this and that, and people will be there to receive your information. So that'd be really good.
And so I'm going to take a Dr. Bob phrase here and apply it. It's what we call pattern recognition. I'm going to apply it to something different. I think that, you asked, how do you go down this path of establishing the right direction? And Bob alluded to it a little bit. It's you got to take a multimodal approach.
And what is that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you take a look at that, what does that include? A number of our wellness heroes, they asked other people, who would you try? What have you come across to? It's just like when I moved here to the Phoenix area. One of the first things I asked people was, who's a good car mechanic around here? Who should I be taking my car to? And so got a few there to map that out. The same thing if you're getting Like one of our people was at hemiplegic migraines all the time. One of the things is to find out who else has had those and what they've done. So that's one part. Number two is your research on what's the science behind some of the solutions, where it applies, is it scientifically sound in it. And number three is also what studies exist, what studies and data exist on it. I take back my old PEMF world, pulse electromagnetic field therapy, and there are a number of related things there. And I won't say the name of this one device, but they were talking. It was probably now about 5 years ago, and they were all talking about, look, these treatments for this with this device existed and they healed people, but the protocols were taken off the market because they were working too well. But they exist. We found these protocols up in the and this is literally what they're saying in the attics of some of the old chiropractors who were applying this, and that's how we know this works. Man, was that a bunch of junk? Well, where's your studies behind it? Another thing that's often put out there in that world is, and this is related, is saying, this frequency was found, and this is related to this part too. This frequency heals arthritis. This frequency will kill this bacteria. Well, how in the world do you know that? Where are your studies? Where are your studies with that?
Yeah.
And by contrast, what I tell them in PMF in general, I say, look, go look at the underlying science of what waveforms and frequencies are supposed to do, and electricity in the body. Number two, go take a look at the PubMed.gov. You'll find up there 90 pages of returns on studies, and those were supposed to be where the gold standard studies exist. So, and then talk to people. So triangulate. What's the science? What's the studies? What have people said? And whether that's about and certainly those, Bob said, try to find trusted providers, so vet them. You can look at their credentials, talk to people who have gone to them, and then add that in the mix. So that's your multimodal approach: lay people, practitioners, science, studies, and then say, I can give this a try. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, great points, Tim. It's really important. Now, when I say multimodal, I mean like a little bit different. Yours is multimodal. What you just said is multimodal. So go ahead, Tim.
Well, remember what I said, Bob. I said I'm taking a Bob term and I'm applying it in a different environment in a different way.
And that's why I'm going to bring up the way I would use it, and the way I look at it. The way you did it was perfect. It's totally valuable for people to know. That's the trying all these different things, which is important. And a multimodal approach in terms of the therapeutic approach, or an interventional strategy, is to have several modalities at once. And so, because the thing is, like I've helped way over 6,000 clients in my life, and everybody's a little bit different. Somebody who has migraine headaches is different from somebody who has back pain, and both of them have flat feet and they walk a certain way, and and one of them was like abused as a kid or had trauma. One of them, the other one, their parent yelled at them the wrong way, and that was trauma. So there's so many pieces to how somebody presents themselves. So, and it's really challenging to figure it out. So when you have a multimodal approach with all these different strategies that you can use, each finger of mine is a strategy, you can pick out the ones you think are the best combination, the 6 best, and use those, and not even knowing which one, because normally one intervention doesn't work well for any one characteristic, for any one condition. So you need a multimodal approach. I proved that in the clinical studies I did, where we tested a single intervention compared to a whole multimodal approach, and the multimodal approach was vastly superior. So it's really so just keep that in mind, people, when you're out there. If you're working with a person who's just doing one modality, that could have limitations. Sometimes it can work really well, especially when you got a strong placebo effect. You got a belief, you got to want it, you believe it, and you know it can work, and there's no subconscious conflict there. That can then a practice, a single mode, has a really good chance of potentially working. I always say you can't send 100 people to a chiropractor who have phobia fear and phobia, and have the chiropractor have a substantial impact on them. And you can't send 100 people with chronic back pain to a hypnotherapist or somebody who does visualization and expect them to get the job done. So it's a matter of picking the modalities that are right. But I like combining modalities. If you're going to see a single practitioner doing acupuncture or physical therapy, find somebody else who's doing something that could be complementary and do that too.
Yep. And there is some crossover, right? You see physical therapy now using cupping approaches, which is something that was more of an ancient Chinese medicine approach. And so that's that you're seeing some of that crossover. Are there other wellness tips that we could put into our wellness toolkit?
Wow, there's some great tips already. Listen, Tim, you got something, or you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, so wellness tips. So we talked about. I think that everybody should consider addressing the subconscious mind using either hypnotherapy, guided meditation, visualization, talk therapy, psychologists, whatever. Psychologists, psychiatrists, they know, especially psychologists, they know about the subconscious mind. They can help you get access to it. So that's a great place to, that's a great modality, or that strategy to include in the whole mix of things. Because if you can release any subconscious mind information that's counteracting what you want to recover from using all these other modalities, that's important. And we've never mentioned that on the show before. And I don't think, maybe we did, but I think it's really important. Figuring out how to access the subconscious mind to clear it, like if you go do hypnosis, hypnotherapy, guided meditation, visualization, whatever you want to call it, all those things are related. I don't think you want to do that alone. You want to combine that, because you use that to get into the subconscious and clear out anything that could be counteracting your desire, your will, your intent to heal or recover from whatever you have, and combine that with some other things. So that's a new tip that I think we haven't given before. Maybe I'm incorrect.
I think you've got to use that approach to combine it with a couple of things to be able to reprogram yourself, because that's what you're really doing in that subconscious mind. And so only other thing I would add to the toolkit at this point, a number of things, but just dropping one point, is what a number of both our wellness heroes and our practitioners have said, and it's alluded to in what Bob talked about, is understand yourself. So how do you understand yourself? Observe. So if you're being told that try acupuncture, but what's this acupuncture was to do for you? So you can provide that feedback. What are you experiencing with it? If you're told to try this herb, then supplement, do that. Whatever you're eating, because there's some thought that even osteoarthritis responds to different types of diets. Some eggs are supposed to, some people will say eggs help it from the omega-3 part. Other people say it will contribute to inflammation, so we'll kick it. So you got to understand personally yourself what's that doing to you. So it's that observation with it to say what's happening, and even and you can use that then for feedback to people to adjust your overall wellness plan with people. But you can also then use that to say, well, where am I having this stumbling block? Well, I'm having hot water therapy is working for me, but I'm not going to, but I should be doing it 3 times a week, and I'm too lazy. I get there once a week. So then you take that and you come up with your own auto-suggestion to adjust that, saying, I will go 3 times a week, or if I go 3 times a week, I will be happy. I am happy when I go 3 times a week, and then you'll get there. So.
True. We're talking about wellness tips. So another wellness tip is, for a lot of people listening are likely to be on maybe one medication to balance out something that's off in their whole being, or they might be on more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So a key concept to remember with your conventional medical practitioners, your MD people, DOs, whoever's regulating your pharmaceuticals, is that always consider a drug holiday which means that you can wean yourself off one of the drugs or two of the, depending on how your medical doctor advises you to do it. Because every day, we're learning information. We're so, in a way, a different person. Look at how Tim and I and Breck have changed since we've been working together on this podcast for so long. We're adopting other viewpoints, which is really cool. So considering the side effects, the long-term side effects that we may not be feeling today from a pharmaceutical, but we might be feeling a week or a month or a year or even 5 years from now. Consider asking a lot of questions of your physicians who are prescribing the medicines. What can I do to ultimately get off these medications? And they'll help you, because they don't have anything. They don't have a vested interest necessarily in keeping you on them forever. So they would, they're going to be responsive because they have this. They took an oath to do no harm and to take care of their patients. So ask questions of your conventional medical practitioners of how can you get off those medications. So consider drug holidays. That's what I'd like to leave our listeners with.
I appreciate that. And the interesting thing about the medications that are, we're seeing some success with, we have no idea what the long-term side effects are going to be on some of these new medications. They're just starting to scratch the surface now on what some of those effects could be. And that's why I'll circle back to our sponsor for this show, the Brain IQ, because it's an all natural way of shedding some pounds rather than expecting a chemical to do something similar for you. But I appreciate all those tips.
Yeah. But I'll add to that, and like often say, there's a doctor I used to live across the street from, and he said, Tim, mushrooms are all natural too, but they kill you. But what that Brain IQ has done is they've looked at all those natural ingredients and shown that they are helpful, not harmful, in isolation or in combination. So they're bringing you through. But what we're all talking about here, a number of things here, is whether it's through knowledge and through observation, through reaching out to your practitioners, is to come up with action steps. So take all these things we've talked about, take the action steps. They don't have to be even big ones on that journey. So we found out from a number of our wellness heroes, they didn't have to do 30 things perfectly. If they did 30 things and each one of them added 80%, they got a compounding impact on themselves, for wellness. So what we're stating here is one action step now is to look at these kind of four things that we laid out here, which was belief, openness, persistence, and then what's the
knowledge,
and knowledge, and actual knowledge, and create your action steps and move forward. And because we've shown here that it's very, very key, a big pillar, those four things combined into a big pillar that says many, many times, especially when you're dealing with very chronic things and challenging things, you've got to put yourself in the right attitude and the right mental state. I hate that word mindset because it's been overused so much. So attitude, mental state, in order to get to your solution.
Yeah.
Well put. Yes.
Very well put. Excellent. Any closing remarks, Dr. Bob?
This has been one of the best shows that I've been on with you guys, and it's fantastic, all the information we covered. I just think it's great. I'm going to listen to this again myself because that's all I was saying. I really appreciate the both of you for all your contributions and allowing me to contribute as well. I think our audience is going to love this show, and people who will get the recording on where's the recording going to be, Tim?
Well, you can listen to the video cast, which you want to see all of our handsome faces as we interacted. You can get that up on YouTube. It'll also go up on LinkedIn as well. And then you can see the audio cast on Apple and Spotify, right, Breck?
Wherever you get your podcasts. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And that's what's at the WellWave Club on YouTube, Tim.
The YouTube channel is called, the Wellness Wave Club on the YouTube channel. You get there and they'll say the Wellness Wave Club featuring the WellWaveNOW podcast.
There you go.
And the WellWaveNOW podcast on Spotify and Apple. or wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your input today on today's show. Did we address all of the studio audience questions? Were there any that we missed at this time before we close out? I think we got to everything.
While you're looking for that, I just want to add, do you put in the show notes, if somebody wants to do a free consult with me, do we put something in the show notes about that, or can we?
Oh, we can put that in there. We do have in there all your contact information.
Okay.
And other things, but surely put in there a free consult.
Yeah, and also just direct everybody to the Facebook group too, as well. So obviously, it's a great place to interact with Dr. Bob or any of our qualified providers that are in there. But wellness doesn't just have to come from treatment or supplements or even exercise. It can start with the way you think. So belief, like let's recap again here, the four things that we talked about: belief, openness, persistence, and knowledge are the four mental shifts that will unlock wellness and keep you moving forward. Train your brain, train your mind, and you will train your body and your spirit towards better health. So thank you, everybody, for being with us today on the WellWaveNOW show. And always remember, wellness, it's in you.